This is the Economic Club of Florida, a distinguished platform for discussion of the major national issues of the day. On today's program, Kimberly Reed of the Export-Import Bank of the United States on its role in leveling the playing field with China on trade.
And so if it's China that's trying to crowd out the United States, we now have a new law that President Trump signed in December of 2019 to basically say, EXIM, you can come and help a company match the offer that China is offering a foreign purchaser, and we want the world to pick us.
Good day and welcome to the 533rd in our series of distinguished speaker programs. I'm Harvey Bennett for the Economic Club of Florida. We're privileged today to have with us Kimberly Reed, President and Chairman of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. For most citizens, a little-known part of the executive branch of our federal government, but one that plays an important role in commerce and our economy. We will note that we're having this conversation remotely a few days before the formal address. Chairman Reed, thank you for joining us today. What is the Export-Import Bank of the United States?
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be with you and all of your listeners. The Export-Import Bank of the United States is our country's official export credit agency. We're an 86-year-old institution, and we focus on the best mission ever, supporting U.S. jobs by facilitating American exports. So we do that through a variety of products that we make available. If a foreign purchaser wants to buy a made-in-the-USA product or service and they're unable to get a loan from a traditional financial institution, they can apply for a loan from U.S. EXIM. We also guarantee the loans of private sector banks and help the private sector help with our U.S. exports. And then for our small businesses, we have some great programs, including export credit insurance and working capital loan guarantees to help small businesses do even more around the world.
So you make it easier for commerce to occur.
That's absolutely right. We are that special tool in our nation's trade toolbox.
Now, you'll be sharing in your upcoming speech how Florida benefits from EXIM, as it's known, Export-Import Bank of the United States, the acronym EXIM. But one issue that we've been aware of here in Florida, for example, is our phosphate industry, as an example of a private industry that has to compete against companies in other countries whose governments there subsidize or otherwise support that foreign company. What role does EXIM play to help level that playing field?
So we help level the playing field with all types of industries and products. We have a few limitations, but when it comes to any industry, we want to be there to help great companies compete around the world. And so we look at the competitive global landscape. Beyond the U.S. Export-Import Bank, there are 114 other export credit agencies in other countries around the world, and they are helping their workers, their businesses compete with the United States in the global marketplace. And so when it comes to particularly a country like China, very aggressive. And so now we're able to work with our U.S. companies to say we want to help a foreign country, a foreign purchaser, buy made-in-the-USA goods and services. And so if it's China that's trying to crowd out the United States, we now have a new law that President Trump signed in December of 2019 to basically say, EXIM, you can come and help a company match the offer that China is offering a foreign purchaser, and we want the world to pick us. So we're working really hard on that right now with all sorts of industries.
Terrific. Now, EXIM has been on hiatus the last few years. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So the Export-Import Bank, an 86-year-old institution, our law requires that a quorum of a board of directors be in place to approve the larger deals. At any one time, by law, we can be lending and supporting up to $135 billion of exports. But without a board quorum, we're limited in what we can do. And so because the U.S. Senate basically did not confirm board members, including myself, for 4 years, we were essentially shut down except for deals under $10 million. President Trump nominated me and worked really hard with our Senate. I was thrilled to receive 100% Democrat vote on my confirmation as a Republican. But we had to get past the finish line to reopen the bank. And that happened in May of 2019. So I've been hard at work for more than a year now to raise awareness after 4 years of dormancy that the world needs to buy made in the USA. They need to buy made in Florida. And they need to know about us and use us if they need us. And so we are back. And as soon as we reopened, we then focused on something called reauthorization. Had to go back to the Congress again. And the president weighed in really loud, and we got the longest reauthorization in the history of EXIM, 7 years. So we're good to go through 2026. And as part of that, we also have a new mandate to take on China head on with at least 20% of our portfolio, or $27 billion in financing that we can neutralize and match China with. And that involves key industries important to Florida. I know biomedical sciences, wireless communications like 5G, quantum computing, renewable energy, biotechnology, a lot of key industries we're really focused on now. And my favorite outreach that we're doing now is on the innovative sector of space. We know how important space is to Florida in supporting satellites and all the components and services that go along with that. So we're back, and we want to get everyone focused on exporting because the global marketplace is a great opportunity for American companies.
That's terrific. You are the first woman to lead EXIM. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how it's impacted your life journey to this point.
Well, I was just so honored when President Trump asked me to head this 86-year institution as the first woman. I approached my job just as who I am, which is obviously someone that is committed to our mission and working hard. My experience knitted perfectly together prepared me for this job. In fact, in my prior life, I worked in food and agriculture and spent a lot of time in the state of Florida with the citrus industry and other industries in Florida to help them export. And now I'm doing it for all industries in our country, big or small. And I'm so thrilled to bring that womanly touch, which means I'm going to be the secret effort to help businesses get enthused, and also our small businesses like women and minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and businesses that are led by persons with disabilities. And of course, those great startups.
Kimberly Reed, it has been an honor. Thank you. We look forward to hearing your formal remarks and learning more about the Export-Import Bank of the United States and how Florida benefits.
Thank you so much.
Now, here's Christopher Emanuel, Director of Infrastructure and Governance Policy at the Florida Chamber of Commerce, with our formal introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mr. Elizabeth Emanuel. We're fortunate today to have Chairman Kimberly Reed as our 533rd speaker in our Distinguished Speaker Series. Chairman Reed has worked at the intersection of public service and business for her entire career. She's advised multiple Treasury secretaries, counseled 3 committees of the U.S. House of Representatives, and served on too many boards to list here today. Reading through her accomplishments, it's hard to overlook her experience in foreign affairs. She has led the International Food Information Council, where she worked to increase American food exports across the globe. She's a life member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and she has visited over 100 countries. Most recently, in her role as chairman and president of the Export-Import Bank of the United States, she led the successful effort for the agency's reauthorization for a historic 7 years through one of the most divided Congresses in modern memory. It is my pleasure to introduce a true statesman, Chairman Reed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris and Bill, and it's so great to be here with all of you. I also want to say that I know that we have Tom Flanagan with National Public Radio in the back, and he is recording this, and it will be played at 7 o'clock on Friday night on WFSU.org. So I hope everyone can hear me okay. I had a great evening last night with all of you, and thank you so much for our lovely time together. And then this morning, a very thoughtful, in-depth roundtable. We're going to have a great announcement that we're going to be making in a few moments. And then Tom spent some time with me interviewing me just before this lunch, and so I'm going to present prepared remarks, if that's okay. Normally, I like to speak extemporaneously, but I really take seriously the Economic Club of Florida's distinguished speaker series, and so I want to create an important, thoughtful record for you when it comes to exports. I also want to recognize my great colleagues, Lauren Fuller, Senior Advisor at EXIM, and she's also a resident of the Villages of Florida, and so she's now telecommuting with her husband from a couple hours from here. Thank you, Lauren, for driving over. And Kelsey Coburg, who is our great press secretary at EXIM. So if you'll indulge me to read remarks, and but I look forward to full engagement, and we'll be publishing these as prepared on our website as well. Thank you to the Florida Economic Club for providing a platform that for over 40 years has let business leaders bring knowledge of economic matters to Floridians. What exactly is the Export-Import Bank of the United States, of which I have been the chairman for over a year now? And how can it help Florida businesses seeking not just to expand their customer base, but actually to become stronger and less vulnerable? As we say, EXIM, E-X-I-M, EXIM is an independent executive branch agency that supports jobs in America by facilitating the export of made in the USA goods and services when private sector lenders are unable or unwilling to provide financing. EXIM fills the gap for American businesses with financial tools to compete for global sales. Our professional 515-person staff work to level a very unlevel playing field for U.S. goods and services in the very tough global marketplace so that America companies and Florida companies can bring America and Florida workers more good-paying jobs. We provide trade financing solutions such as export credit insurance, working capital guarantees, and guarantees of commercial loans to foreign buyers in order to empower exporters of U.S. goods and services. May I ask if we have any stakeholders of EXIM in the room today? Please raise your hand. I know we have at least one here. Any other? All right, I want to see Tallahassee export even more, okay? Because we're doing a lot in Florida. Since May 2019, when EXIM was reopened by President Donald J. Trump in the U.S. Congress, we have authorized $9.7 billion in financing, of which 3.1 was for small business spread over more than 2,000 deals or authorizations. At EXIM, we measure success by the best thing in the world. I have the best job in the world, and that's the number of jobs in our country that we support. And I'm so pleased that now that we're reopened, we're supporting tens of thousands of U.S. jobs. When the coronavirus struck, EXIM provided relief that made things easier for small businesses and lenders. We raised the guarantee coverage option of our supply chain finance program and working capital guarantee program to 95%, up from the standard 90% guarantee. Other relief measures that we've put into place include temporary bridge financing, progress delivery payment financing, and flexibilities like waivers, deadline extensions, and streamlined processing. And we ourselves swiftly converted into a fully teleworking agency. EXIM is a demand-driven agency. We do not pick one industry over another. We also adhere to guidelines regarding what we call additionality, which is a term we use to make sure that such a transaction would not be able to support or go forward without EXIM financing. So we don't want to be competing with the private sector banks. This underscores the strict rules that we follow to ensure that we supplement and not compete with private capital. Our commitment is to the additionality, and we really want to do this to keep America strong. Our new vision actually is just that, keeping America strong, empowering U.S. businesses and workers to compete globally. President Trump proclaimed this week Made in America Week. In doing so, he stated that the coronavirus pandemic has exposed the profound failures of past trade and manufacturing policies. He said, "It has never been clearer that foreign dependence is not only the antithesis of the American spirit, but also endangers our national security in times of crisis." In addition to renegotiating international trade agreements like the landmark USMCA, President Trump has executed manufacturing policies that reassert America's manufacturing might. As the president put it, Made in America is not a slogan, it's a solemn pledge. It is the foundation of our renewed success, he said, promising that on every front, my administration will continue to fight for American workers, American jobs, and American businesses to ensure prosperity today and for America's future generations. EXIM is a major part of this administration's commitment to Made in America. During my swearing-in ceremony in the Oval Office last year, President Trump told me, "Try to give American workers a level playing field and expand foreign markets for American-made goods. And when it comes to the United States, great small businesses aim to do even better." If you visit me at my office, which is on the northeast corner of Lafayette Park, I overlook the White House, you'll see that I have the president's remarks and these exact quotes in a frame on my desk. He signed them during that very special moment with him and the vice president in the Oval Office last May. And it's what I give my whole life to right now. EXIM is spending Made in America Week saluting our nation's builders, ranchers, crafters, entrepreneurs, and all of those who make America great. And we are highlighting export success stories to raise awareness of the unique tools EXIM can provide. In Florida alone, EXIM has provided $2 billion in authorizations since 2014. And some 456 of those 544 Florida exporters we have helped over that time are small businesses. Among them is Greenfield World Trade in Fort Lauderdale, which provides food service equipment and supplies, in which EXIM last month honored as Exporter of the Year at our 2020 annual conference, the largest conference, even though it was virtual, 1,700 participants, the largest in our history. For more than 20 years, Greenfield World Trade has been a wholesale provider of kitchen appliances and implements for the food service industry worldwide, serving both commercial and consumer markets. It represents more than 30 world-class manufacturers of high-quality restaurant equipment. With 450 employees, exports sustain 20% of Greenfield's jobs. Greenfield currently benefits from EXIM's guarantee of a $6 million line of credit from PNC Bank of Pittsburgh. The working capital loan guarantee has allowed Greenfield's export-related inventory and foreign receivables to be used as collateral. That makes it possible for this small business to expand its borrowing base and borrow more with the same collateral, allowing the company to compete more effectively and aggressively and pursue international markets. Since 2014, EXIM has supported approximately $150 million of Greenfield's exports. Greenfield World Trade Center President Neil Asbury calls EXIM, quote, "an invaluable asset in ensuring America competes globally," close quote. And so with that, because our annual conference was virtual this year, I am just so thrilled that Greenfield's Vice President, Jonathan Vandos, has traveled here today so that I can present him with this Exporter of the Year award. And so with that, would you come forward, please? So Jonathan, on behalf of the Export-Import Bank of the United States, I present you a great Florida small business with the Export-Import Exporter of the Year award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was fantastic. I'd like to give you a hug on that. Thank you. Thank you. This is for you.
So, Jonathan, I would love to have you just share a little bit of your success, your company's success, with this esteemed audience.
Thank you so much, Chairman Reed. And I also wanted to, of course, start out by, again, thanking you so much, Chairman Reed, for all of our guests, our financial institutions, for the Economic Club of Florida, and also for your remarks. They were very personal, and they really reflected our company. So thank you, Chairman Reed. It is with a deep sense of honor. I'm going to read a little bit too, but speak also extemporaneously to us all. It's with a deep sense of honor that I accept this award on behalf of our company, Greenfield World Trade, the legacy companies, and our president, Neil Asbury. You know, up here, there's just myself, one person, but literally behind me are hundreds of people that help create our company, our employees and our staff, and they are working hard every day, as all of us are. So when we pull back from this, I think it's a little bit less about our company. It's more about what our desires are and our goals are, and all of our respective goals in this room. And I believe that we're all here for a few key reasons. One of those is to create job creation and creating better jobs for our American citizens. We all know that that's such an important part of what we're doing, and that's how important EXIM is. You know, EXIM helps to create and fund our companies and financial institutions and their guarantees. So without EXIM, and as Chairman Reed said, without EXIM, companies like ours would not be where we are today across the globe. And I think that's really vital for us all to understand. Here in Tallahassee, I hope more companies participate with EXIM because it is a fantastic program. You know, we all might travel a lot. I thought there'd be maybe more exporters in the room today, but those that export travel 4, 5, 6, 7 months of the year. And we all know that our foreign competitors understand the vital role that strong exports play in their economies. And what EXIM is doing, and as Chairman Reed said, is leveling the playing field. When you travel internationally, you get a real sense for the pitfalls and the obstacles that we face. And EXIM really is the ace in our hand. So we appreciate that. The last thing I really think I'd like to say here is that I do believe our goals are the same. We really want to have improved employment across our nation, here in Florida, as well as across the United States. So job creation and creating opportunities for as many Americans as possible, I know is deep in our hearts and what we're trying to accomplish today. And so Chairman Reed, with your unflagging support, what you're doing for the economy and for our companies, really you're helping turn a lot of goals into reality. So we really do want to say thank you for that. So again, thanks for everyone to be here today, for being here, for inviting us. And it has just been such a pleasure to meet some of you and to have a few words with you. And so again, thank you all. Thank you, Chairman Reed. And I hope we can get back to a good luncheon. May we all have a good closing to a fourth quarter. And if it's the end of the year for you fiscally, may you have a good closing of your year and to a much improved 2021. Thank you again, Chairman Reed.
So again, I have the best job in the world, I think, because it makes me so happy to see what our mission is at EXIM helps companies of all sizes succeed in Florida and around our country. Another Florida example is Motortronics, a small business motor device manufacturer based in Clearwater, and I had the honor of visiting them a few months ago. Motortronics was worried about non-payment on part of its foreign buyers, and the growing company also had cash flow concerns. The firm has been an EXIM customer since 2007, and our export credit insurance with its multi-buyer policy that covers up to 95% of the sales invoice solved the non-payment issue. EXIM's working capital guarantee helped with the cash flow, and Motortronics currently has $4.2 million in the loan facility with EXIM's delegated authority lender, JP Morgan Chase. Since 2014, EXIM has supported Motortronics exports valued at more than $60 million, shipping to buyers in more than 24 countries, including Egypt, Nigeria, South Korea, Singapore, and Turkey. According to Motortronics, 70 of the company's employees would not have a job without EXIM. Still another EXIM success story that I had the honor of visiting before COVID is Ben Kaufman Sales Company, a small business in Medley that sells printed towels and apparel to countries throughout the Caribbean. Its market is extremely competitive, and the price is the primary buying criterion. The company was hesitant to take risks that could have a significant negative impact on its operations. But working with EXIM gave Ben Kaufman's executives the peace of mind to expand into riskier international markets while protecting their assets and employees from what might happen if an international business deal went sour. It had a number of challenges as a small business. It had to borrow against its receivables, both to expand into new markets and to manage the seasonal nature of its sales. At the same time, Kaufman needed to mitigate the risk of not being able to collect from our international customers. Without EXIM, Ben Kaufman would still be exporting, but only to a few customers they know would pay within 30 days, a big limit on the number of companies Kaufman could do business with. With export credit insurance from EXIM, 95% of its shipment is covered in case of financial default by one of its international customers. Our insurance also expands Kaufman's borrowing base. With export credit insurance, Kaufman is protected against the risk of non-payment by a foreign buyer, allowing the business to export with confidence. I'm told that our great EXIM staff are easy to work with, according to Kaufman, and has made it a simple process that did not take up much of the company's time. And the firm only pays for credit insurance when the company uses it to cover exports. Since 2012, when Kaufman became an EXIM customer, its workforce has more than quadrupled from 12 to 50 employees, and it grew from a single embroidery machine to 24 machines. As I mentioned, it was one of the firms I visited when I was last in Florida in January, when I spent 3 days in Tampa, then in the Miami area, meeting a cross-section of 150 EXIM customers, business owners, bankers, and community leaders to underscore how we can support American jobs by helping U.S. businesses export their great made in the USA products around the world. During that trip, special emphasis was placed on the unique tools EXIM offers minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses of all sizes, and this is a personal passion of mine, to help them grow and compete when exporting. One event was hosted by the Florida Export Finance Corporation and the Miami Minority Business Development Agency Export Center. Also participating were Miami International Airport's Protocol and International Affairs Division and a representative from the office of Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, who represents Florida's 25th Congressional District. It was so exciting when Florida Export Finance Corporation Executive VP Daisy Ramos Winfield, whose organization has partnered with EXIM for 27 years, said, quote, "The impact of EXIM has shifted the way Florida exporters are conducting business abroad," close quote. Citing the improvements EXIM's helped bring over that time, she promised that FEFC will continue to support EXIM and share its passion for small business development. FEFC and MBDA are both members of EXIM's Regional Export Promotion Program, a cooperative arrangement between EXIM, cities, counties, states, and local nonprofit economic development entities. With more than 57 million members in 35 states and 2 U.S. territories, our rep has yielded more than $25 million in new authorizations through direct referrals, connecting small business exporters to the global economy. And of course, a highlight of that trip, we know so well through our dear friend, Alex Sanchez, who is unable to be with us today, but we hope he has all of our prayers. He's lost his brother and is mourning with his family today. But a highlight for me on that trip was a keynote address at his invitation to nearly 100 Florida bankers. And I told them that, as President Trump has made clear, economic security is national security, and EXIM will not sit idly by while China uses unfair trade practices at the expense of America's workers. How many of you are really worried right now about China and what they're doing around the world? For those listening on NPR, everyone raised their hand. So I was delighted when EXIM's reauthorization that President Trump signed into law last December gave us at EXIM a clear direction to focus what we do on economic and national security challenges from China. And I continue to remain committed to that directive. Our nation's financial institutions and leaders, including the Florida bankers who joined me that day, are key to ensuring America's businesses are able to compete and win around the world. Florida Banker Association President and CEO Alex Sanchez also serves as EXIM's advisory committee member. So he is helping me stay focused on what's happening here at all times in Florida. He's tremendous, and he was just named to the President's Export Council as well. And so Alex has said, our country needs to be involved and engaged on China policy and the trade deficit that exists between our countries. He added that with President Trump's leadership and the reauthorization of EXIM, this is finally being addressed. During that reauthorization, which is the longest we've had in our history of 86 years, a 7-year reauthorization, we are now charged with establishing a new program on China and transformational exports to support the extension of loans, guarantees, and insurance to American exporters on terms competitive with those offered by the People's Republic of China, or as I say, Communist China. EXIM seeks to reserve at least 20% of our financing authority, or at least $27 billion of our $135 billion financing capability, to neutralize Beijing's export subsidies, advance the comparative leadership of the United States with respect to the PRC, and support U.S. innovation, employment, and technological standards through the direct exports in 10 industries key to America's and Florida's prosperity and security. These include a lot of industries that I've talked about since arriving here yesterday, important to Florida. 5G or wireless communications, artificial intelligence, biomedical sciences, biotechnology, which I read not just as medical biotechnology, but coming from the world of food and agriculture technology. In my prior career, I spent time here with the Florida citrus industry. I hate seeing the greening that's happening, and we want to help Florida stop experiencing that travesty and instead be exporting all of your great ag products. Also, financial technology or fintech. We know that that's really big here. Quantum computing, and one of my new favorite initiatives, space. Satellites are tremendous. I know that Florida is just the eye of what we're doing, and we want to be seeing all of that great equipment and services help with our country's space initiative. And we want the world, who also may be involved with space, to be buying our products and not China's. So we've already confounded some of Beijing's designs. In March, we at EXIM approved approximately a $91.5 million loan guarantee financing to support the export of design engineering construction services to Senegal. An Illinois company, Weldy Lamont, was selected for the project over foreign competition that was supported at least by 4 other governments, including China. The transaction is expected to bring electricity to approximately 333,000 Senegalese in more than 400 villages, while supporting an estimated 500 U.S. jobs in 14 states, including Florida. Another accomplishment, which was huge, was when the Chinese and Russian financing was displaced in a project. Because the President of the United States got us confirmed to reopen the bank, we were able to show up to this transaction that was underway. And I'm so thrilled that because of EXIM's reopening, we were able to support the largest deal in EXIM's history, $4.7 billion in financing for the export of construction and integrated liquefied natural gas project equipment to the country of Mozambique. It's one of the largest transactions in our history, supporting 16,700 American jobs across 68 suppliers in 8 states, again, including Florida. And before we reopened, it was Russia and China that were slated to do this deal. And now it's 16,700 American jobs using our direct lending, but including in Florida. I am so thrilled to be out on the road again. For those listening, we're distancing and we're behaving in a safe way, but I'm thrilled to be able to tour Air Products International tomorrow down in a manufacturing facility in Port Manatee. who will manufacture this LNG heat exchangers for the Mozambique project and produce millions of tons of liquefied natural gas per year. How many of you have heard of Air Products International? Okay. So did you know that they are the beneficiary of the largest deal in EXIM's history? It's huge. So thank you for having me here to help share this news. As I was introduced, I am so proud to be the first woman and first West Virginian, and I know we have a lot of West Virginians who are retired in Florida, but I am a mountaineer, and so I'm so delighted to serve as the head of EXIM. But I'm just as proud to preside over an agency whose purpose is making high quality, reasonably priced, made in the USA products and services fully available to the world, and in so doing, bringing good jobs to American workers. It has been proved that when U.S. exporters they compete on a level playing field in a fair global marketplace, our country wins. We make the best stuff. And consumers around the world are allowed full choice to buy American time and again, and we know that that is the choice that they will make. Florida has already benefited greatly from American exports, and EXIM is committed to continuing to bring to the world what Florida has to offer for many years to come. And with that, I have a very special announcement. It's Made in America Week, and you can read the President's proclamation. And we're celebrating our exporters like we have just now, but I can't wait for this big breaking news. I'm going to ask Mark Wilson to come forward. He is, as you know, the head of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, but he also has a big additional title, and it's chairman of the National Association of States Chambers of Commerce. And through our discussions and just letting all of those in the room today and listening on radio know about what EXIM can do for Florida companies, we want to take this to every state in the country. And we're going to do that launching today as part of Made in America Week, a big All-America initiative. Mark?
Well, Chairman Reed, thanks very much. And for those of you who didn't know, we had a small group meet this morning, and we were talking about how do we grow Florida? How do we grow America? And how do we do it through the private sector? And one thing led to another. And we started talking about, business is a story that needs to be told across America, right? You said it, Kimberly. It's about jobs. It's about competition. And so what we're announcing today is a partnership between EXIM, thanks to the leadership of Kimberly, and we're going to work with all 50 states across the country. I chair the National Association of State Chambers. And so EXIM Bank knows in every state, in every congressional district, how many jobs, how many companies, what are we making, what are we exporting? And the difference that EXIM Bank is making, whether it's competing with China or whether it's just helping create more American jobs. And so that's the announcement that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of days. And it'll be a big deal here for Florida because, as all of you know, Florida's a big manufacturing state. We have over 300,000 jobs. We have the 12th most manufacturing jobs in the United States. Our goal is to be number 5 by 2030. So 200,000 more jobs need to be created right here in Florida. So this national movement's going to be born right here. It's a partnership with EXIM. And I'm asking all of you to help us think through how can we get the word out about what EXIM makes available for Florida companies, right? And so anyway, thank you, Kimberly. Appreciate the partnership. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you again to this fabulous club. I'm so happy to be here and share this great economic message and this great tool in our nation's trade toolbox as we reopen the economy and get it going. I want to be there, and our whole EXIM team wants to be there as well for you. So happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and it was wonderful visiting with you and your wonderful team last night and breaking bread. And thank you for coming here. And also thanks to our friend Alex Sanchez, and please give our condolences especially. Real quick question for you. There's actually kind of two. They're related but different. Florida's going to vote on a proposed constitutional amendment in our state constitution called Amendment 2. It would make Florida a real outlier, not necessarily in a good way, but in an expensive way. And that would be to increase our minimum wage from, we have $8.57 an hour now to $10 immediately, or shortly thereafter, its adoption, if it were to be adopted, by 60% more, thanks to Mark and I and some efforts we've done in the past, but to raise that bar. But it would raise to $15. Okay, it would make Florida an extraordinary outlier in costs. Even by the Congressional Budget Office, it said that for helping maybe 1.3 million people nationally would actually displace 3.7 million people. That's before the pandemic. Okay, so clearly, I'd like to get your perspective. TaxWatch has done a lot of research on it. It's just harmful to the very people it's intended to help, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of small businesses that are just barely hanging on. It sounds like a leading question. It kind of is, because the evidence is pretty leading. What is your perspective on that, and maybe just from a factual export-import perspective?
Yep. So since this is an initiative dealing with an election, I am not commenting on this at all, because I am here on official business and I don't do politics or elections or campaigning. But I just want to say generally, the beauty of our country, it's competitive. And so Florida may do one thing different from my home state of West Virginia. And I would say that the choices you make here will either drive success for business and workers, or it won't. And I know that we have a lot of smart minds in the room. I love talking with the Chamber's chief economist, and he may have some thoughts on generally on our economy, but I'm going to be politically uninvolved and just say, good luck, Florida. You're going to make the good decisions for your state, and the proof will be in how many jobs you end up increasing in the state. And I just want to see a strong economy, and Florida will decide what's best for Florida.
A more easy follow-up question. What for those of us that may not be directly in the export-import business, what are some of the things we can do as leaders in our community to help encourage and promote more trade and fair practices, but also more export-import value add?
How many people have small businesses in the audience today? Raise your hand if you have a small business. Okay, keep them up high. High hands. Now, if you don't export, keep your hand up, and if you do export, lower your hand. So for those who have their hands still raised, I don't know what your business is, but have you thought about that the world's consumers, 95% of them live outside of our borders, and maybe you produce a good or a service that the rest of the world wants to buy. And what is your competition globally doing? What are other countries doing? And that's the sweet spot of what EXIM does. We want to help those great small businesses learn to export. Take that. It's a big jump, but time and time again, those that export, we see that you do better as a business, and you can grow the jobs with your company. And so the things like export credit insurance, our working capital loan guarantees, things like that can help you make that big jump from being a domestic focused company to a global company. We've got a great head regionally here. She's not with us today, Elena Mendez, and she and our whole team, you can find EXIM's information on our website, exim.gov, but take a look and just think about it, because the more you sell and produce, the greater your business is and our economy is.
Madam Chair, thank you for being here in Tallahassee. We certainly appreciate you coming here. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal in the weekend edition about the Belt and Road Initiative from the Chinese Communists, and it was implying that they really have not executed it very well, that a lot of the countries are feeling concerns about the way they've been roped in on the financing.
Yes.
And so I'm just curious, could you share with us a little bit, what's your perspective of dealing with other countries, since you've been to so many around the world, about the United States versus competing economically with the Chinese communists?
Absolutely. So we're reading exactly what you're saying, and what do I call it? I call it debt trap diplomacy. And as an American, it makes me nauseous to see these countries around the world sign up and for financing from China, where then they can't pay up. And so then what happens when you make a loan and the purchaser can't pay up? You acquire the asset. And so 2 weeks ago, my first trip since COVID was to Greece. I was with the Prime Minister of Greece, and we took a ferry ride out of this port in Greece called the Port of Piraeus. And it is the largest port in Greece, third largest in Europe, and in the most strategically sensitive area between Europe and Asia. And in 2016, I don't know, EXIM was not operational. The port of Piraeus was acquired by China. And so I'm going down this waterway, and I'm seeing China Shipping Company. How do we feel about that? I don't feel very good. You see the same thing in other strategic locations like Djibouti and Sri Lanka, and that's just with ports, but it's with everything. And that's why Congress said, America, come on, let's find out where these deals are happening. It takes boots on the ground in these countries as well, because you learn about these deals when they do the ribbon cutting in the local newspaper. So you got to be smart globally and see where the competition is happening. And now I have this new mandate for our agency that we can spend at least $27 billion. So it doesn't say maximum, at least. So I'd love to do all $135 billion. Let's knock out China and get our goods going all around the world. Because we were closed for 4 years, we have the capacity to lend at any one time and support $135 billion of financing. And because we were closed, right now we're at about 40 billion of that. So we're ready to increase what we're doing in every way. We welcome all applications. I also want to say for those who might not be a fan of the Export-Import Bank, so free market conservatives, feeling that maybe that this is not a role of our government, it is when it comes to China. And even great people like Larry Kudlow, the president's economic advisor, said at our annual conference, it's all about China. We must compete with China. And Peter Navarro, I don't know if you've heard of him. So he's a trade advisor to the president. And yesterday in Washington, I had the head of the Puerto Rican Economic Development Authority in my office. And he said with pleasure, Peter Navarro said to us, China fired, Puerto Rico hired. And so that's what I want to say to all of you. China fired, Florida hired. And that's our goal. Also, I want to say one more thing on that China part. 115 export credit agencies around the world now. EXIM is just one of the 115. China has 2 official ones. Lots of unofficial activity that they do. It's not transparent, so we're trying to figure it out. But we know that they do basically in their export credit financing what the G7 countries do combined. So we got to get it going.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again for being here today. You had mentioned that the EXIM was non-existent in 2016. Could you maybe let us know which administration actually disbanded EXIM?
It's a rule that in our charter that says you need a quorum of a board of directors at EXIM to vote on deals over a certain dollar amount. And so if the nominees are not confirmed by the Senate, and I'm chairman of our board, and board quorum is at least 3 of 5 board members. If you don't have a quorum, you can't support the larger deals. You can do small business all the time. And at the time, before May of 2019, it was under $10 million. So it's the Senate confirmation process that was the reason. So we weren't getting a vote. So you hear about all these nominees who are waiting for a vote in the Senate. And so if they don't confirm you to take on the job, the bank essentially shut. But I will say that the President of the United States personally intervened in my case and personally asked a senator late April, I want the bank reopened. Chairman Reed needs to be at the helm. Our country's getting hurt. Please, please, please. And with his personal blood, sweat, and tears, I was confirmed within 2 weeks of a 2.5-year confirmation process. So I'm standing here with you today because of one moment when I fortuitously was with the president and a senator who had to make that happen.
Madam Chair, one last question, and that is, so you said that there's 150 other organizations like yours. So
115.
115, okay. So how much do our Western allies have something similar to EXIM?
Yes.
And how much of a competition are they with us?
I'm smiling for those on the radio. We do co-financings also, very complicated deals sometimes, but sometimes something like 5G, we might make components along with another country's components to compete with Huawei. So we'll do co-financing. I've got great peers all around the world, but we know that when you look at the map of the competition, China's number one, but then we have countries like Italy, India, UK, Germany, France, and on down the line. They're all doing what they do, Canada, but we all have our own rules. And I would say, because my job is to protect the taxpayer, so when we lend out the money, we get it paid back from the foreign purchaser with interest and fees, and then we give that money to the Treasury, millions of dollars, to help you get a tax cut maybe, or offset our deficit. Other countries don't have those same rules, and some are more lax in their due diligence and their red tape. I want to have as little red tape for our exporters as possible, but again, I have to protect the taxpayer, because I'd be really sad if our default rate got too high. Right now we're at 0.5%, and do I have any bankers in the room? Is 0.5% default rate pretty good? Pretty good? I think it's pretty excellent. So we're working hard to protect the taxpayer, but our allies and partners around the world also have the things that they're trying to sell. Think about the world of aircraft. France has Airbus, we have Boeing. And do you want to provide the financing if an application comes in from a foreign country? I'm just going to make up a hypothetical, Turkey. Turkish Airlines, they could buy Airbus planes in France supporting French workers, or Boeing airplanes made in the United States. And I know that some of the supply chain is in Florida for that. And France has their great export credit agency. We now have EXIM. Who do you want Turkey to buy from? Boeing, USA. So, but we do things together, and we all are concerned about China. And so it's a collaborative, but also competitive relationship, because I know France wants to sell more of their stuff too. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
You've been listening to Kimberly Reed, President and Chairman of the Export-Import Bank of the United States, speaking before the Economic Club of Florida on October 7, 2020 in Tallahassee, Florida. For more information on EXIM, visit exim.gov. The Economic Club of Florida promotes interest and enlightenment on important economic, political, and social issues of the day. To learn more, including how to become a member, visit our website at economic-club.com. This program was recorded at the Governor's Club in Tallahassee, Florida.